Hello again, and welcome to Storytime with Nana and Glow. We are going to be reading The Unwanted Kitten, Chapter 3 today. Chapter title, A Confusing Welcome, and as always, the kitten. Lucy's dad had picked up Skye from the breeder early that morning. Skye had only left home before to go to the vet, and she'd always returned to her familiar room with the big basket that she shared with her mom, her brothers, and her sisters. Today, she'd had to stay in the dark box on her own for a long time, and she was so lonely. She wished she could go home and snuggle up and let her mom lick her fur and make her feel better. Where was she? It didn't smell like the vet, and it certainly wasn't home. She couldn't hear any other cats either. She had started to cry for her home and her mom, and then someone had opened the box. Skye shrank back into the corner of the box and peered up at the girl, feeling scared. Who was this? It wasn't one of the people that she had met before. But then the girl, Lucy, had picked her up, and Skye had relaxed a little. She could see the delight in the girl's eyes, hear it in her quickened breathing, and feel it in the thud of her heart as the girl held her close. She had nestled snugly up against her, purring gratefully. She liked this person. The girl had petted her and rubbed her lovingly under her chin. But then suddenly, she had taken her firmly around the middle and put her back into that dark box. Skye didn't understand. She had felt how happy the girl was to hold her. Lucy had been full of love. She knew it. Why had she suddenly changed her mind? Well, now she was sitting in a large, comfortable basket in the corner of the kitchen with a bowl of kitten food and another bowl of water. There was a litter box close by. She had everything she needed. But no one was with her, and she was lonely. What had she done wrong? When Lucy had run out, the boy had cuddled her briefly, and then everyone had disappeared, and the kitchen was empty. Poor Skye. She was not used to being on her own. Until early this morning, she had lived in a house that was full of cats. Her mom, and all her mom's sisters and their kittens, and their own sisters and brothers. She had spent most of her time with her mom, snuggling up in their basket, but she enjoyed being petted by people as well. She wouldn't have minded leaving her home so much if Lucy had kept cuddling her, but now that she was alone, she felt desperate to go back. She howled her loud, piercing Siamese howl, crying for someone to come and love her. Upstairs in her room, Lucy could hear Skye. The kitten's sad, lonely wails made her want to cry too. She knew exactly how Skye felt. Taken away from her cozy home and brought somewhere she didn't belong? She wished she could go and comfort her, but she just couldn't do it. Lucy could hear her parents coming up the stairs, talking in low, worried voices, and she knew she had to explain how she was feeling. The trouble was, she wasn't sure she could. Maybe it would just be easier to say she'd changed her mind about wanting a cat. Her parents came in and sat next to her on the bed. Mom put an arm around her, but Lucy sat stiff and tense. "I'm sorry, but I don't want a kitten," she said tiredly when Dad asked what was wrong. And there they are, sitting on the edge of her bed, talking about the kitten. Her parents exchanged confused glances. "But Lucy, you've begged for one for years," Mom protested. "Every Christmas and birthday, a kitten has been at the top of your list. Now we finally moved to a house big enough to have a cat, and on a quiet road, and you've changed your mind." "Yes, I've changed my mind," Lucy echoed. "We thought you'd love a kitten," Dad said, shaking his head. "All that time you used to spend playing with Nutmeg and Ginger next door. Mrs. Jones used to joke that they were more your cats than hers." Lucy's eyes filled with tears again at the thought of Nutmeg and Ginger. She missed them both so much. There was another mournful cry from downstairs. "Oh, that poor kitten," Mom said. "She doesn't know what's going on. We'd better go down so she isn't all alone. Lucy, I know you're missing our old home, but we thought Skye would cheer you up. She really needs someone to take care of her." Lucy didn't answer. She knew that. She was desperate to go and cuddle Skye and tell her everything would be all right. But things weren't all right, and it was no use pretending. Lucy glanced up at as her parents shut the door. As soon as she was sure that they were both at least halfway down the stairs, she buried her head in her pillow and cried and cried. A kitten, at last! And she couldn't keep her. Eventually, Lucy dragged herself up from her bed. She wanted someone to talk to. She wanted Ellie. Lucy took out a pen and her favorite cat writing paper from one of the boxes and started to write to her about everything. Here's a picture of the letter. And the letter reads, The letter reads, "Hi, Ellie. Mom and Dad have just given me a beautiful Siamese kitten. She's so cute and soft to cuddle, and she's got the biggest blue eyes you have ever seen. I should be really happy, but the thing is, I can't keep her. They think giving me a kitten will make me cheer up and not miss home and you and all my friends. Mom even said so. Well, that's not going to happen." Lucy started to cry again, and her tears smudged the ink on the page. She scrunched up the unfinished letter and threw it in the garbage can. It was just so unfair. A beautiful kitten, just like she had always wanted, but her parents had only gotten Sky to make Lucy forget her real home. "Well, I won't," Lucy muttered fiercely, gulping back sobs. "They can't make me, not even with a kitten." Well, by now Lucy had cried so much that she was desperately thirsty, and her head ached. She threw on some clothes and opened her bedroom door quietly. Ethan had gone out to play football, and Mom and Dad were in the yard, looking at the rickety old shed. She could creep down and grab a glass of juice without having to talk to anyone. Upstairs in her room, it had been terribly difficult to tell herself she didn't want a kitten. Downstairs in the kitchen, with Sky staring at her with huge, confused, sad blue eyes, it was completely impossible. Lucy held out for as long as it took to go to the fridge and pour her juice and drink a few thirsty gulps. But the sight of Sky, lost in her too big basket, was irresistible. Lucy put the glass on the table and knelt down beside Sky. "You don't know what's going on, do you?" she asked gently. "I'm not trying to be mean, honestly." Sky just wanted someone to play with her. She stood up, stretched, and put a paw on Lucy's knee. She gazed at her head to one side questioningly. "Ma?" she meowed pleadingly. Lucy's mom had left a cat toy in the basket, a little jingly ball with ribbons attached to it, and Sky pawed at it hopefully. Lucy shook her head, smiling. "Okay, when it's just you and me, I'll play. But we have to pretend, all right? When Mom and Dad are around, I won't be able to play at all." She looked at Sky. She knew a kitten wouldn't understand that sort of thing, even if she did look very intelligent. Sky batted at the ball again. Enough talking. She wanted to play. Lucy danced the ribbons in front of Sky, bouncing the little ball up and down and sending Sky in crazy skittering circles all over the kitchen. It was so funny. Lucy hadn't known Nutmeg and Ginger when they were kittens, and she hadn't realized how much more playful a little kitten would be than her two middle-aged, rather plump cat friends. She danced, she jumped, she tumbled over and over, attacking the fierce ribbons. "Oh, Sky," Lucy giggled. Then she heard voices coming up the path. "Mom and Dad." Quickly she stood up and dropped the jingly ball back into Sky's basket. Sky watched her, puzzled. Was this a new game? Was she supposed to jump into the basket and pull it out again? She dived in and popped up with a mouthful of ribbons. But Lucy had turned away. She was standing by the table drinking her juice. Sky waited. Maybe she was supposed to creep up on Lucy and give her a surprise. Yes, it was a hunting game. She dropped the ball and leaped sneakily out of her basket. Tummy low to the ground and ears pricked with excitement, Sky crept across the kitchen floor, slowly, ready to pounce on Lucy's foot. Just then, Lucy's parents came back into the kitchen. They saw Sky standing on her hind legs, pawing Lucy's jeans, gazing pleadingly up at her. Lucy was ignoring the kitten entirely, not even looking at her. Lucy's mom sighed and went to pick up Sky and pet her. Sky gave a tiny purr. It was nice to be cuddled. But she was still gazing at Lucy. She was confused. Why didn't Lucy want to play any more? What had gone wrong? It was as though Lucy was a different person, and not a very friendly one. And that's the end of chapter 3. We'll have to read on next time to find out what's going on. What do you think? Do you think Lucy is softening a little bit towards Sky? Well, we'll read on and see. We'll see you in the next video. Bye now.